Hello, everybody, and we're back with live Real Talk with Nina. I'm Nina, your host, and today I have the wonderful Lorraine Ball with me. Lorraine is an SEO person. That's sort of in the nutshell of a nutshell of a nutshell. She's a lot more than that, of course. But not your typical SEO person, not what you would expect. So I am super excited to welcome Lorraine. I'm super excited about all the questions I have and what she will share with us today. So Lorraine, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. And why don't you just give us sort of the, couple of minute version of your background and, how you got to where you are today.
Okay. So I wish I could tell you it was a straight path from, childhood to where I am, but like most of us, it isn't. I have a background in education and in marketing and had a lot of years in corporate. And 20 years ago, I decided to start my own business. The company was called Round Peg. We created solutions that fit and started as a traditional marketing company. And then along came the internet and social media and SEO. And suddenly I found myself doing things I had never envisioned. The company became a digital agency. And one of the things that we discovered was a lot of businesses were coming to us and didn't know what they didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so training was a sideline.
Yep.
And then training became the thing I really enjoyed. So I have subsequently sold the agency. The digital Toolbox is now my happy place. And I love helping business owners harness digital marketing tools in a way that really makes sense for business owners to grow.
Excellent. So the SEO part, when we started talking and I did a little digging around, I was very pleasantly surprised. I sort of was equating SEO with sort of, totally warped copy. So there would be, certain buzzwords in it or, linking and backlinking and this, that, and the other. And I kind of found that that is absolutely not the case in what you are doing. And you shared with me just before about, what you were doing from the get-go with your SEO and what other agencies were doing. Share that story with us. I think that would be of great value.
So 12 or so years ago, SEO was all about backlinks and keyword stuffing. And there was white hat SEO, which was the good stuff. There was black hat, which was the bad stuff. And in between, there was this gray hat stuff. And the whole thing gave me a headache. And
I could see why.
Yeah, well, and my frustration was you would get these pages that you twisted and turned and manipulated so they showed up on search. Mm-hmm. But then the user experience when they got to the website was bad.
Right.
And so people didn't stay. And so I just kind of went, not going to deal with that. Not going to deal with that. I'm going to focus on creating blogs and content and websites that human beings are going to appreciate. And A funny thing happened. One day I had a lot of my friends who were in the business who were doing a lot of this black hat stuff or gray. Google changed their rules. And overnight, a lot of those strategies didn't work as well. Yeah. Funny thing, my pages still showed up on page 1 where they were supposed to. And so that became kind of the foundation. Fast forward, 12 years, do I understand and do I also use some of the, Google Search Console and some of the higher level stuff? Absolutely. But as a business owner, when I'm working with business owners, what I want them to learn are the foundations of content-based SEO. And they can either turn and rely on somebody else to fill in the other blanks. And even if they don't, they will do well on search.
Okay. So a couple of things. First of all, define for me white hat versus black hat. And I don't know whether that is because I'm not an American native speaker or whether that is social media terminology. I'm not familiar with that.
So white hat and black hat actually is sort of this skewed reference to the old cowboys in the American Westerns. Okay. You could always tell who the good guy was because he was wearing the white hat and the bad guys always wore the black hats. And so that became kind of this colloquial reference to people who were SEO professionals who either played by Google's rules very, very strictly, or looked at Google's rules and tried to find every way around it to kind of game the system.
Okay.
And even today, there are people that practice black hat SEO. It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense, because you're doing all this work to almost bring people to your website under false pretenses. And then they get there.
And then you're not delivering, right? Yeah.
No.
And I find that interesting, especially nowadays where we're all talking about authenticity and being genuine and, all of that. So, and I think also a lot of this has to do with vanity metrics, right?
Yes. I think people get caught up, and don't get me wrong, I love to see my traffic numbers go up.
Of course.
Every day. But I had somebody on the show who said, you don't need 1,000 people to come to your website. I'm like, yeah, I do. And he says, no. He said, you only need the 5 who are going to buy from you.
Yeah.
And what that really speaks to is you can spend a lot of time focusing on a lot of people, or you can pay attention to how many of the people who come look at more than one page. How many of the people who come fill out a contact form, take advantage of your download offer, schedule an appointment. Those are the metrics that really matter, because those are the things that drive your business. And so when you do a content-based SEO program, what you're doing is not focusing on the masses. You're focusing on the people most likely to buy and creating paths for them.
Yep. True. So true. And totally signing on the dotted line. I mean, that's what I always is. So, we specialize in helping people with video on LinkedIn in particular. And I always say, like, views are lovely, but views are a vanity metric. I would only look at comments and then actual engagement and who is booking that call with you. I mean, that is the metric I want you to look at.
Absolutely.
Over anything else. So thanks for defining white hat versus black hat. And then, so now how does it look? What does organic or, what's the word that you used?
Content-based.
Yeah. Content-based SEO. What would define that for me? What does that mean?
So with the content-based SEO program, what you're really looking at is creating content, blog posts, video, images, quizzes, tools, anything that is, quote, content targeted for a specific audience and presented in a way that Google will discover it, as well as your customers. And in order to do that, the very first step is you have to start with your target. And this is the thing I think that sort of breaks a lot of people, because they want to start with their keywords. These are the words people really? Are those really the words? And the only way you can kind of get to the right messaging is you have to define your customers. If you sell cosmetics, it's not anyone with skin. If you are a chiropractor, it's not anybody with a spine. Because if you're really honest about what you're doing, or, let's go specifically to coaches and consultants. It is not every business owner. I don't care. You're an accountant and every business owner has books. Yes. But every business owner is not going to hire you.
Yep.
So figure out what is unique about the people that do business with you and the people you want to do business with.
Exactly.
What are the defining factors? Now you have this narrow picture of maybe a target or maybe 2 or 3 targets. You go down these exercises for each one. When that customer is looking for your service, what questions do they have?
Yeah.
Not what keywords, what questions. Because, you probably remember doing internet searches the way I learned to do them. It was a Boolean search. It was dog plus house,
Yep.
furnace plus repair, and with quotes.
Yep. Yep. I'm still guilty of doing that today.
Well, and and it still works. But you know what? Lots of people these days pick up their phone and say, where can I repair a toaster near me?
Yep.
Why does my furnace smell funny?
Mm-hmm.
How do I double my sales? And so people are using these real world questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's less about the individual word and it becomes the question. And then you are on a mission to answer questions.
So it's actually the entire question that you now need to. All right. So it's no longer, double sales video. It is, how can I double my sales with video marketing?
Absolutely. And so, one of the things, and there's lots of different kind of pieces of this, but one of the things that you can do is if you go to Google and say, how can I double my sales with video marketing? One of the things that'll happen is Google will show you all the other questions that people have asked that are kind of related.
Yep.
So now what I want you to do is I want you to start copying a bunch of those questions down. There's also 2 sites that I forgot to give you links to before, but I'll make sure that you get them. One is answerthepublic.com and the other one is answersocrates.com. And these are both free tools and free services. And you can go with your keyword or your question. And Answer the Public is really interesting because it'll give you like these branching visuals that says, here's your question, here's a related question, here's a group of questions that are related. Answer Socrates will actually show you the common questions popping up on Google and really kind of rank order them. So however you find your questions, you kind of grab all those questions. And I want to say something else about questions before we go leave that subject. People have different questions at different stages of
their search. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, think about when somebody is starting out, they don't know what they don't know. How do I grow my business? And they find a whole bunch of different questions. And then they're like, oh, I could work with a coach. So how do I hire a coach? What's the best coach? So you have that first group of questions that's kind of just information. I don't know what I don't know. And then you have that second group of questions that's more kind of narrowing. If you're selling a branded product, it might be something like, okay, I want a Bryant air conditioner. Who sells Bryant near me? Then you may get into, well, I'm thinking about a life coach or a business coach, kind of the versus, the comparison questions.
Okay.
And then finally you have the, how do I buy this service? What are the pricing? Kind of, so
very specific. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really need to kind of look at all those different types of questions.
That's fascinating. So, okay, so that is the consumer side. So now, on the business side, I'm this consultant or coach. I now know that people are searching for my services by saying, who's the best accountant for, a dog parlor, dog grooming parlor. Now, well, that wouldn't be a consultant but doesn't matter. We were talking about dogs earlier, so dogs are very prominent. They're always prominent in the front part of my brain. Anyway, but now what do I do now that I know what the questions are, or I have a bit of a better idea what the questions are? How do I now use those?
Perfect next step. So the next step is you have your list of questions. Before you run out and create a lot of content, you need to figure out, are you answering any of these questions? So most websites that have been built in the last few years have a search function. That's really how people are experiencing your websites. They're not really using the navigation anymore. They're looking for that little eyeglass because they're used to doing searches. I want you to go to your website and I want you to pick what you think is the best question and see what comes up. Do you have content that comes up that exactly matches that question? Do you have content that comes up that's kind it related? Do you have a blank screen that says no results found?
I
You know?
agree. Yeah.
And so then, and I'll give you an example. We were working specifically with they were a carpet and flooring company. And one of the questions that we thought was really great as we were doing our research was, what's the best flooring for my kitchen? I liked it because it was very specific. It had that nice best word in it. It had a very specific niche use of the product. So kind of where you were going with that, who's the best accountant for a dog grooming business?
Mm-hmm.
It really has kind of that nice word. We didn't have anything on the website. So what do? We wrote a blog post on that subject.
Yeah.
In another instance, working with an accounting firm, we found the primary question, and it did well, but we were like, but that's not enough. One blog post is not going to be enough. So we started doing like niche, like related continuation. And so this is where I'm going to be just a little geeky, but it's not really very geeky, people. If you have 3 or 4 articles that are connected, help people and search engines find those other related articles by putting a hyperlink in your post. So you have this article on general accounting principles for solo practitioners. Now you have a related article that is the unique challenges of the unique accounting challenges of an attorney. From the first one, you might say, if you're an attorney, read more here, or here's an article. So you connect, because the way that search engines move through your website and through the internet is the reason they're called spiders is they crawl. And they go over here and then they follow over here. And as long as they go from here to here, and this is connected, not just because you've linked it, but because the information really is connected, they will continue the journey. And you know what? So will human beings.
Interesting. I remember I used to do a lot of that when I still was blogging. Now I'm vlogging. So how does all of that work with video?
So with video, I would really, and I do this with my podcast, with my audio, either a transcript or a summary. One of the things this is a user experience thing. I don't often like direct transcripts because the way that we speak and the way that we would write are different. There are pauses. There are use of weird words that make total sense when we're talking and you can see me and you can hear me and you read through it. Personally, that's not my favorite. Because again, it's easy for you. It's easy for the search engines. It's a crappy user experience. So I prefer the summary, kind of high level. These are the key points the person made. And so now you've got that content that the search engines go, oh, this is good. And then when somebody comes to your page, some people want to read or some people want to watch a 40-minute video. And who wouldn't want to watch 40 minutes of me talking?
Exactly.
Right. Bingo. But in case you don't have the time, you can skim down and you can also go, oh, she gets to this point. Looks like about halfway. I'll just fast forward to that. So that's how you balance it. 600 words.
Yeah. I mean, what we do with our posts is, I always tell my clients, do not put the transcript of your short social media video into the post. That's a big no-no, because people also get annoyed if they're reading it and then they're going into the video and realizing they're listening to the exact same thing they just read. Summary is great. And then what we do, however, on YouTube is we do have a summary, and then we write transcript : and then we just cut and paste the entire transcript in, just so it's there. But I heard rumors, and now I'm wondering whether I thought it was true, but maybe it is a rumor, that the crawlers can now also read video, or is that only if it's open or closed caption?
I think it's if there's open or closed, if you've got the captions, or like if you're using YouTube, okay?
Yeah.
YouTube is owned by Google.
Right.
Okay. So the engines that categorize and index the internet are also categorizing and indexing your videos. And so Google has a transcript function now on YouTube. So I would always turn that on and make it available. You can certainly update it and do your own version, but I find that to be
You
really
can upload an SRT file, yeah, and that'll be the same thing, yeah.
And so by doing that, you're really helping the search engines, Google and everybody else, again, categorize, index, understand your content.
Okay. That's great. That's great information. And I think there is a difference, and I'm always a little fuzzy about it, between open and closed captioning, because we're calling everything closed captioning, but there's actually a difference between the two. And I think if you upload an SRT file, which is a closed captioning file that lives separately from the video, which is how we normally do it, so you can transport it from platform to platform without having to redo the captions each time, that can be read by crawlers. So that's another reason why closed captioning is so important. So when I was preparing with you, for this talk, I was actually really excited when I came across an article that you shared with me, which is called "Inspire Action with Power Words." Words in general is one of my favorite topics in the world. I'm a former linguist from a very former life, and any books that have to do with semantics and semiotics and all that kind of stuff, that just that tickles me. So tell me about the different kinds of words you sort of put them into 4 categories, and I thought it was just so incredibly fascinating.
Awesome. Yeah, the words have meaning, and they have the power to inspire and motivate. And the first category of words are kind of what's called the seductive. And the funny thing is, these words have the power to seduce and kind of get people excited. And some of them are going to seem very innocent.
I know.
Okay. The one that's obvious, free. Everybody connects with free. And is
that still? I mean, isn't free sort of kind of overused at this point, or
it is? But it's still kind of, if the rest of the supporting context around the word free makes the offer sound interesting enough, free still works.
Okay.
New. People love things that are fresh and shiny. As entrepreneurs, we've got that. The next thing is always better than what we've got now. So new really works. The one that I've seen this in a number of different studies, because, and I'll give you the example. This side goes way back to my marketing class. You had people online to use a copier, and someone would run up and go, can I cut the line? And then they'd say, because I'm running late for a meeting, because I just need a few copies. And what they found was, even if you went up to someone and said, everybody in line is waiting for copies now. Everybody in line, can I cut the line because I need to make copies? They still let you cut in front of them. And
it doesn't really matter what's coming after the because.
It absolutely blew my mind. So, again, these are words that sometimes override kind of almost rational. The other one is how to. That is a really seductive. And the way I like to think about that, when I have a friend of mine who actually started work, her career working with me She was one of the first content SEO people on my team. She's now a journalist. And she came back. We were talking about headlines that grab people. And the old marketing technique was always the question, do you need more sales? Do you want a happier life? Are you looking for? Because you would do the question and then the answer. What she told me is that these days, we are questioned out. We got way too many questions. And so she said, you almost want to take the Jeopardy approach with the here's how to grow your sales. Here's how to. So what you're doing with the, discover how to, here's how to, when you do almost the solution, you are alluding to that same question. But now people feel like this almost relief. Oh, if I read that,
it's giving me the solution.
She's going to give me the solution. And so that's why that how to is so seductive. So that's kind of that first category of words.
Which I loved. And then you have the emotional power words.
And no, go ahead.
No. And I mean, some of them are I felt were sort of standard, but also there's some really interesting stuff in there too. So how do we use those best?
So what this is a little bit of psychology, and like you, I love words. I loved consumer behavior when I was in school. I found that was one of my favorite subjects because you were really kind of getting into the mind and the intention and what motivated people. In order to use emotional power words, you got to know your customer. You got to know not just that high level, oh, they're looking for toasters. You have to understand at a gut level that they want a new toaster. And why do they want that new toaster? Is it for security? Is it because because it's jealousy, because their neighbors have new toasters? Is it because the guy they're in love with or the woman they're in love with loves toast? I mean, I know this sounds silly, but you really have to do that because when you understand the emotion, it's not that you use the phrase, are you jealous of your neighbors? No. but if you know that jealousy is the emotion that you're tapping into, then you can use things like, discover what all of your competitors already know. Learn the tricks that successful business owners use every day. Because what you're doing is you're tapping into that emotion that is really driving.
Love it.
If your customers are in survival mode, think about, was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You got to take care of the base before you get, and this is, I think, one of the things that sometimes life coaches struggle with, is they jump to the message at the top of the pyramid, but the business owners that they're talking to emotionally are still struggling with things in the middle. They're struggling with acceptance and with feeling secure in kind of their own. They're not ready for self-actualization.
Yeah.
And so your messaging needs to be tied more to the kind of that emotion level.
Awesome.
Okay.
And then you do distinguish sensory power words and transformational words.
So sensory power words, that's a tongue twister.
Especially in the morning.
Especially in the morning. There are words that connect to one of the five senses. My favorite are the auditory. Think about when you see the word boom, crackle, pop, cha-ching. You see the word and you hear the sound. In the back of your mind, you hear the cash register ring. So those auditory cues, those auditory words really help you grab attention, because as someone is scrolling down a page, if that word pops out, they're going to hear that sound and it's almost going to startle them. So that's kind of the auditory. We do a lot of work. We have a client we've worked with for a long time in the food business. And in the food business, you really want to use words that tap into taste and olfactory senses. So you talk about aromas, you talk about that, warm, buttery feeling on the back of your tongue. And if you want really good examples, follow food bloggers. I mean, I love food porn anyway. So, but follow good food bloggers, and you're reading it and you're getting hungry because those words are so descriptive.
Yeah.
What I would
do, alliterations fall into that category?
I love alliterations. I think they're kind of in their own little world, but you either really enjoy alliterations or they don't work for you as a writer. Yep. I love them. We named a lot of our cookbooks things like wonderful winter warmers. And for those of you that maybe are not familiar with what an alliteration is, it really is a sentence where it's almost a tongue twister, but every word or every important word, not the articles, all start with the same letter.
Right.
This is very cool from a reading perspective because they kind of roll off your tongue. It's also fun from a visual. If you're creating a social share to go with a blog post and you've got that alliteration and you can kind of make it in big visual text, that's going to catch somebody's eye and pull them in as well.
Yeah, which is where we're all about, So we have to connect and convert cohort. And we're clockwise. So, so clockwise has a lot of C. We love our C words. And we have to create, connect, and convert mastermind. So yeah, definitely love our alliterations. It's also easier to sort of, they roll off the tongue much easier, right? Yeah.
They do. And it's interesting because I've worked with a couple of different writers and some of them, their brain just doesn't go there. I mean, they just don't see it. And other people look at it and go, oh, don't say it that way. Do it this. And it just connects. So if that happens to be the way that you write and you like the feel of it, go. It's a great tool.
Yeah. It's also the visual part for us, obviously, because we're very visual as a company. Yeah. Yeah.
And yes. And so there are letters that are more interesting than others. I's not terribly interesting. C's are fun, and I think you do it with your logo where you kind of hang the clock off it a little bit. So, yeah. And while we're on the subject of titles, I don't want to undersell this. If you spend 2 hours writing a good blog post, not that you're going to stare at that sheet of paper, but give that title equal time because that is what's going to pull human beings. Search engines will value your title.
Yep.
They're also going to value the rest of your content, but human beings are going to react to that title. And so, using some of these words, having a little bit of fun and being creative with the social share language that may be very different from the SEO title for the page is really helpful. And you can do things that surprise or shock or just make somebody curious or make them go, what did they say? And
what was that? Yeah. So what do you think of things like we use a thing called a headline analyzer? It's a free tool, and they have a score, and we always say, like, if the score is not at least 65 or up or 70 points or up, we're not using it, and we keep toiling with the title until we get to a higher
So
score.
I think those tools, headline analyzer, if you have a WordPress website, you might be using Yoast that gives you a score for the SEO, or Rank Math, which I happen to really like. And what I would say on all of those is run your content through the tool and get feedback. Tweak it and see how close you can get. But at the moment that you have a headline that you really like, and the tool is telling you you're still at a 60, but you're like, but this is interesting. This is, stop.
Yep.
You do not need to make every post on your website perfect, because your organic traffic is the cumulative effect of everything you have written. Your authority is not based on that one blog post, but on all of the content. So if you have a post that ranks at 95 and you have one that is just a joy to read, but it only scores 55, add a picture and call it a day.
Yeah. Interesting. So pictures, do pictures get SEO'd?
Absolutely. And really the work is before you load an image. You can do this once you load the image. It is easier to do before you load the image. We all do it. You have pictures that you took with your camera, and they're called image 1, image 5, image 297, right? And you upload that to your website and you put it on your page, and now you have an image that is called image 297. Which of your customers is looking for image 297?
Yeah, I always name everything, but yeah, as you should. Yeah.
So every image needs to be named. If you are using WordPress, you have an opportunity in the media library to add not just the image name, but you can do a description. You can do what's called alternative text.
Yeah.
And this is really important for search engines and for a subset of your community. There are people that are coming to your website who may be visually impaired, who are using tools to read your website. And so what they are relying on is this tool to read your website. And as they roll over that picture, the more descriptive and the more appropriately named that picture is, the more it enhances their experience. And I think people think about visual impairment as an on and off switch, and it is not. I did some work a number of years ago with the Indiana School for the Blind, and their webmaster was legally blind. He had some vision. He could see shapes and a little bit. So he was relying on all of these tools, and was amazing. He could do things on that website that people who considered themselves completely sighted couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I think we are moving to an era of more accessibility. There are more tools that are coming along to improve the accessibility of websites. And so naming your pictures appropriately is a good first step.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice. Thank you. So how do people work with you? I mean, what do your programs look like? How do people engage with you?
So the very first step is go to the digital toolbox. We offer some introductory webinars and some free courses. There is, from there, you have two choices. There is a membership, which gives you access to our entire library of webinars and videos and recorded classes and custom training. Or if you only need help on one or two topics, you can buy just that one or two class. The programs are really geared for small business owners. So the majority of the programs are $30 to $60 individually, and the membership is $24.99.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Very
it really is very, very reasonable. Now, if you really are ready to go, okay, no, I want to hire somebody to do this for me. The good news is I ran an agency called Roundpeg for 19 years. I trained that team. And so I am still associated with them. And I don't just refer clients, I stay on as a consultant for those customers. But the nice thing is that I have somebody else to do the legwork.
That's nice. That's perfect. Now you also have a class that is self-paced, right?
Yes.
How does that work? I always find that self-paced work, people buy it and then they never do it. How do you handle that?
So I started with a 30-day course, and I discovered just what you said. People got about halfway through and they just lost steam. And so we have just launched our content-based SEO class is really 7 lessons. And each lesson, the videos are less than 5 minutes.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, they're short. There's one worksheet, one assignment. And so we're seeing that makes a lot more sense. I am experimenting right now. When you register, you get the whole course. You don't have to come back every day, because some people are going to do more or less. I really feel very, very strongly. SEO is not a set it and forget it. Yeah. You are not going to learn everything you need to know in a 3-hour seminar and go off and do it.
Yeah.
You have to learn a little, practice a little, measure the results. Learn a little, practice a little, measure the results. Yeah. And so with the self-paced course, the nice thing is once you buy it, there's no, your subscription ends in 30 days, you have to finish the class. No.
Yeah.
Register for it. We've actually got some reminders. So if people go away for 30 days, we're going to be like, hey, you're 20% completed. You should go back and look at it. But also for people who have completed the course, then they want to go back and go, I need a refresher on, or there was that worksheet and I can't remember where I saved it. It's in the course. And they can go back time and time and time again.
And then I'm sure that, and this is something we're battling actually with video is, there's things like strategy and content creation that is more or less timeless, although even the strategy can change because there's new rules on, with different platforms. So, and especially with the, edit software, et cetera, how do you handle that? Do you constantly update your content or you keep it evergreen?
There are some things that, I've been doing marketing for 40 years. That's
how I feel when I say I've been in business for 30 years. And I always say yes. And I started when I was, 12. So
right. Absolutely. I was in the womb doing marketing. Yeah, I totally get it. But there's some things that haven't changed. The sessions on defining your ideal client, I do update it just because I want to refresh the branding and stuff. But the course, for right now, I'm reworking a lot of my social media classes because some of them are 18 months old and the platforms are different. So yeah, we go through, like I said, the content-based SEO class. This is brand spanking new. I just pushed publish about 2 weeks ago. So it's really new and I'm really excited about it. But some of the others, again, I go back and on a regular basis because it does change. It does change.
It does change. It does. So I'm just realizing we're already at time because this was amazing.
This is so much fun.
So we have a couple of links, right, to put into the comments so people know how to connect with you, Lorraine. So we've got your personal website, and then we've got your Digital Toolbox website, and then we have your what was the third one?
Well, More Than a Few Words is my podcast, and you actually have recorded a session, and you're coming up. We're going to be releasing that soon. Yes. And our podcast, again, knowing who our audience is, we had a very clear picture of our customer in mind. So the episodes usually run about 10 minutes, and you can listen on the go, and it's designed to have 1 or 2 key tips that you can apply right away.
Yeah.
And that's morethanafewwords.com.
That's awesome. That's very good. So we'll put all those links into the comments, right, Bryn? Yeah, Bryn's nodding, and she's behind the scenes, and really loved the approach to it. For somebody like me who's maybe a little bit more on the creative side, it sort of takes the scary out of SEO, the way you approach it. So I thought I learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to check out your courses. Sounds really interesting. So thank you so much for taking the time, for being here with me today. And go and check out Lorraine Ball's website. And she's got an awesome blog. Everything is a really succinct, quick read. There's no endless blah blah in there. It's just to the point. So is, as she just said, her podcast. They alternate between like one or 2 minute tips and 10-minute interviews. So all very snackable and digestible and very customer or consumer friendly, right? As it ought to be. Anyway, Lorraine, thank you. And I'm sure we will talk to you again before long.
Awesome. Thank you. This was so much fun. Bye now.
Excellent. Thank you.